A meltdown so messy, producers didn't even try to cut it out. Cameras were rolling, wigs were flying, and now so is Yandy. Out the door, off the set. And maybe out of love and hip-hop for good. But what really went down between her and Jessica? And why is the next season teaser already being called the most chaotic preview in franchise history? Buckle up, because this isn't your average reality TV catfight. This is betrayal, sabotage, and sisterhood ripped to shreds, all captured in full HD. Did Jessica really leak that voicemail? Did Yandy really quit mid-filming? Or is this just another Mona Scott special gone off the rails? And here's the real tea: what if the realest moment on this scripted circus wasn't even in the script? From whispered shade to full-blown warfare, what started as petty drama spiraled into a backstage breakdown, with insiders claiming the entire season is now at risk. So, who crossed the line? Who's faking what? And what the hell happened behind that slammed trailer door? Don't blink, because you're about to get all the dirt they didn't want you to see. This is where the mask slips. Let's begin. It all started on what was supposed to be a routine shoot day, but what unraveled was anything but routine. One moment, cameras were rolling, cast members were stretching their necks for lighting, and production assistants were doing touch-ups. The next moment, Yandy's voice cracked through the soundstage like a gunshot. "I'm done." And trust, she meant it. We're not talking about your typical love and hip-hop drama here. No, this wasn't a wig snatch or a wineglass toss at some dinner table turned disaster. This was Yandy Smith-Harris, the long-standing queen of reality, TV.com and composure, finally hitting her breaking point in front of everyone: crew, cast, and cameras. And at the center of the firestorm, none other than Jessica, who apparently thought it was a bright idea to shove a script in Yandy's face and accuse her of faking drama for camera time. Oh yes, the irony. The same Jessica who spent the last 2 seasons reinventing herself as the center of attention now playing moral police. Yeah, that didn't sit well with Yandy, and it shouldn't sit well with anyone who's been watching this show long enough to know that. Jessica's whole career is scripted chaos. Sources on set said you could literally hear gasps echo when the confrontation started. Yandy, tear-streaked and visibly shaking, squared up, fists clenched, not throwing hands but throwing facts. "I don't need to fake *T for views," she snapped, eyes locked on Jessica. But instead of backing down, Jessica went in harder, smirking, calling Yandy disposable, and tossing that annotated script like she was dropping receipts in a courtroom. Except the receipts. Oh, they were covered in sabotage. Scribbled all over the margins were notes like Yandy's downfall, scene, and backup plan if Yandy quits. Backup plan. Backup plan. The audacity. Crew members say they'd never seen Yandy so shaken, so pushed, so raw. This wasn't acting. This was the kind of breakdown reality shows try to manufacture, but this one was all too real. The kind where a woman who's carried the show on her back for nearly a decade suddenly looked like she'd rather torch the whole stage than film one more scene. And while the producers were practically salivating at the footage, the vibe backstage was anything but celebratory. People froze. Literally. Like deer in headlights. Kendra, bless her peacemaking heart, tried to diffuse it. She stepped between the 2 women, begging for calm. But even her trembling voice couldn't stop what had already started burning. Jessica looked Kendra dead in the eyes and hissed, "Don't play the mother card with me. You raised her for this spotlight." Yandy flinched like she'd been slapped. The entire room went silent, then exploded into whispered chaos. Who says that to someone's mother, on camera, with a straight face, and still calls herself a sister? One crew member said it felt like watching a car crash in slow motion while being strapped in the front seat. Producers shouted to reset the scene, to roll the next take, to keep things moving, but honey, reality had already taken over. This was no longer about filming. This was about family, betrayal, and the absolute limit of how far someone could be pushed before they snap. And snap Yandy did. The next scene, ironically scripted to be a heated confrontation, barely even needed lines. Yandy stood there, clutching the pages with trembling fingers, reading words meant to be fiction that now mirrored her exact reality. Jessica paced around her like a vulture, delivering her dialogue like a knife to the ribs. "You think you're untouchable. You think this show needs you." And just when Yandy was supposed to respond with her rehearsed clapback, she broke character, shouting, "You always use my pain to boost your storyline." And that's when it all collapsed. People were scrambling, money tried to step in, someone yelled cut 3 times, and the director, Useless. Jessica just stood there smiling like she'd won something. But what did she win exactly? The chance to be the most hated woman on the internet that day. Because in less than 5 minutes, Yandy stormed off set, screamed "I quit" at the top of her lungs, and disappeared into the hallway, robe clutched tight around her like armor. The second she left, Jessica's smile faltered. The moment wasn't victorious, it was venomous. And everyone in that building knew it. But just when you think it couldn't get any messier, enter the phone. Yes, that phone. As producers scrambled to regain control, Jessica's phone buzzed. She checked it, froze, money peeked over her shoulder. "It's already leaked," she whispered. The fight, the walk-off, the audio. One click. That's all it took for the entire world to see Yandy's breakdown in real time. Leaked footage was already being dissected by fans. One frame showed Jessica's smug smirk. Another showed Yandy's tear-streaked exit. The timeline erupted with hashtags. Hashtag Yandy why leaves. Hashtag Team Jessica. Hashtag who leaked it. And then, just when the cast thought it couldn't get any worse, someone whispered the unthinkable. "There's a voicemail." Now, you might want to take a deep breath before we go there, because this voicemail, it wasn't from Jessica. It wasn't from production. It was allegedly from Yandy herself, angrily threatening to quit the show if she didn't get top billing. And it gets juicier, because by the time the teaser went live, fans weren't just watching the drama, they were living it. Comment sections turned into war zones. Leaks, lies, loyalty, and betrayals were suddenly the main course of every social media feed. The show's official page couldn't even post without getting swarmed. And Jessica, instead of playing it cool, she fumbled. Badly, she called her publicist. She tried to spin it. "We need a statement," she barked. "Damage control. Get me something from Money and Cease too. Damage control. Sis." The damage was nuclear. Meanwhile, Yandy sat in the back of a cab, silent, staring out at the blur of streetlights and regret. Her phone vibrated over and over. Fans, friends, producers, probably Mona Scott herself. But Yandy didn't answer. She stared out into the night like she was done with all of it. The lights, the cameras, the lies, and just when it seemed like she might really disappear forever, something shifted. A buzz, a text. From Kendra, "Will always be your home." Yandy's eyes welled up. Her voice, barely above a whisper, cracked as she told the driver, "Take me back." But back to what? The set. The drama. The sisterhood she just shattered, with a single walkout. As her cab turned around and the studio lights came back into view, no one knew what would happen next. Not even her. But one thing was certain: the real show was just beginning. As Yandy's cab rounded the corner and the studio lights flickered back into view, the air was thick with anticipation. No one expected her to return, especially not so soon. Inside, the crew scrambled, some stunned by her reappearance, others whispering theories under their breath. Jessica, perched on the edge of a makeup chair, froze mid-sentence as her assistant handed her a phone. She turned her head slowly, catching a glimpse of Yandy's silhouette at the entrance. Their eyes met across the room, and just for a second, time seemed to stop. The tension was suffocating. Everyone held their breath, unsure whether to brace for another explosion or witness a reconciliation that no one saw coming. Yandy walked in with slow, deliberate steps, shoulders squared, face unreadable. Jessica stood but said nothing, her usual cocky smirk replaced with hesitation. Money stepped in quickly, like a referee before a title match, her voice calm but urgent. "Let's just breathe for a second," she said. "Let's talk." But the talking didn't come easy. Yandy's voice cracked as she spoke. "I didn't come back for the cameras. I came back because I couldn't leave it like that." Jessica responded quietly, "You came back to make it worse." That was the match that lit the fuse. Yandy's eyes flared. "No, I came back because people like you don't get the last word." Kendra's voice pierced through the chaos, trembling with raw emotion. "Enough, both of you," the director whispered to a cameraman. "Keep rolling. This is the episode." Jessica turned away for a beat, composing herself, then spun back around. "You said you needed to find yourself," she said, her voice low but sharp. "You sure you didn't just miss the spotlight?" Yandy looked at her with fire in her eyes. "At least I didn't leak anyone's voicemail to make myself look like the victim." That hit hard, too hard. Jessica's jaw clenched. "I didn't leak it." And that's when the unknown number called again. Kendra answered this time, her face pale. "They say they have proof Jessica leaked the voicemail." The room fell silent. Jessica froze. "What?" she whispered. Her voice faltered. I didn't. I swear I didn't. But the doubt had already crept in. Yandy's expression shifted from rage to something more painful: betrayal. She turned to Kendra. Put it on speaker. Let everyone hear it. The crew gathered, some holding boom mics, others holding their breath, as the speaker crackled to life. You'll find the evidence in last night's makeup trailer footage, the voice said. Timestamp matches the voicemail. One assistant bolted to the control room. Moments later, the big monitor descended from the rafters. Everyone turned. The grainy, black and white footage began to play. There was Jessica, leaving the makeup trailer late at night, phone in hand. Another clip showed her returning, eyes scanning around, looking nervous. Jessica watched herself on screen, lips parted, eyes wide. That's me, she whispered. The weight of the moment crashed down hard. Yandy backed away, tears in her eyes. Why? She choked. Why would you do that to me? Jessica's voice cracked. I was trying to stay ahead of it. I thought if I controlled the story, it wouldn't ruin us. But instead, she had ruined the last thing that held them together. Kendra couldn't speak. Money stepped in, holding Jessica's arm gently, her silence screaming volumes. Yandy looked up, her face hardening. No more. No more secrets. No more lies. Jessica nodded, but the damage was done. The cameras caught every flicker of pain, every shiver of betrayal, every tear Yandy refused to let fall. The fallout was immediate. Online feeds were already exploding with speculation. Viewers were reposting the footage, dissecting the confession, creating their own narratives. Inside the studio, producers huddled with legal teams, debating whether the leak had broken any contracts. One executive muttered, "We might have to pull the premiere." Another snapped, "Are you kidding? This is the best press we've had in years." Meanwhile, Jessica sat in silence, staring at the floor. Her confidence had vanished. All that remained was a woman who gambled on fame and lost her family in the process. Yandy paced nearby, trying to collect herself. She wasn't just heartbroken, she was humiliated. And yet, despite it all, part of her still ached at the sight of Jessica's trembling shoulders. Kendra tried once more, voice hoarse from crying. Please, don't let it end like this. You two are more than this chaos. But the chaos wasn't finished. Because just then, a studio assistant burst through the door with a message from the network archives. Old family footage had been discovered. Archival tapes from years ago, before the fame, before the fights, before the betrayal. The screen flickered again. This time, home videos played. A young Yandy being cradled by Kendra. A baby Jessica giggling with a handmade doll. Birthday parties. Dance battles. Moments so pure they sliced through the current mess like a knife. Everyone in the room stilled. Yandy covered her mouth. Jessica looked away. They were once inseparable. Real sisters, not castmates, not rivals, just kids. Before ambition poisoned their bond. As the footage faded to black, Money stepped forward, her voice trembling. This is who we were, who we still are. Not enemies, not pawns in some ratings game. Family. The silence that followed was deafening. Even the buzzing of equipment seemed to hush. Jessica turned to Yandy, her voice a whisper. I don't expect forgiveness, but I'm sorry. And Yandy, she didn't say a word. She just walked over, reached out, and for the first time in what felt like years, they embraced. The room didn't cheer, no applause, just raw, heavy silence. And then the director called it action, because somehow, through all the pain, the betrayal, and the absolute circus of it all, they still had a show to film. But this time, the script didn't matter. What was happening was real. And real is the one thing love and hip-hop never gets enough of. The cameras zoomed in as Yandy and Jessica took their marks. They held hands. Their voices steady, but laced with the kind of heartbreak that only truth brings. Jessica said, "We let the noise get in our heads." Yandy replied, "But we won't let it end us." And just like that, the story took another turn. Not a happy ending. But maybe, just maybe, a real one. And just when the dust started to settle and the lights dimmed on what seemed like a moment of healing, the studio erupted into yet another frenzy. A new alert popped on everyone's phones, a live tweet storm, not from a random gossip blog, but allegedly from a former producer who claimed they were present during the secret meeting where the voicemail was leaked. Screenshots of an internal group chat were being posted, suggesting that Jessica didn't act alone. The messages showed timestamps, coded nicknames, and references to Stage 4 drama and Operation Top Billing. Yandy stood frozen as she read them, her lips parting slowly, the blood draining from her face. Jessica stared too, her jaw tightening. This wasn't just about her anymore. Apparently, the network had orchestrated some of it. That's right, the very people holding the cameras might have also been pulling the strings. Kendra looked to the director, eyes burning. "You knew?" she asked, her voice trembling. The director said nothing. The silence was its own confession. Money slammed her clipboard down. So that's what this was. A setup, a plotline sold to the audience like it was reality. Yandy blinked back tears again, her whole body trembling. I walked away thinking I had to protect myself from Jessica, but the betrayal started higher up. Jessica turned to the crew. "Who else knew?" she shouted. Who else was in on this? But no one answered. The lights suddenly felt colder. The set no longer looked like a stage, it looked like a crime scene. Producers huddled, PR teams already drafting statements to spin the storm. Jessica, usually the cool and collected queen of clapbacks, sat down slowly, covering her face. "They played us," she whispered. Yandy nodded bitterly. "And we gave them the show of the decade." At that moment, the studio monitors flicked back to the archival footage, not by mistake, but by someone in the control room trying to remind them all who they used to be. Childhood clips, confessional bloopers, laughter, dance routines, real moments, unscripted, unmanipulated, untouched by producers. Yandy and Jessica sat together, shoulder to shoulder, watching it. And for the first time, no one said a word. The rest of the cast started trickling into the set. Cease, Bambi, even minor crew members whose faces were rarely seen on camera. They gathered silently, like a crowd mourning something sacred. Kendra wiped her cheeks, standing between her daughters, each hand on their backs. "Enough of this," she said. "We're not here to be puppets. We're here to tell our truth." A new directive echoed from the top. The network had no choice but to respond. Leaks were now confirmed. Confessions were trending. The footage was undeniable. The audience knew. And if there's one thing reality TV hates more than chaos, it's losing control of the narrative. That's when the executive producer walked in, the same woman who'd been in meetings the sisters weren't even invited to. She stood center stage, clapping slowly. "You two just saved this franchise," she said with a smirk. That line hit hard. Jessica shot her a look. "Saved it? You nearly destroyed us." The producer didn't flinch. That's what makes great TV. Pain, rage, redemption. She held up her phone. Ratings just spiked. Yandy rolled her eyes and turned to the camera crew. "You want reality? Fine, film this." She stood, shoulders squared, voice loud and clear. "No more scripts. No more stage drama. We do this our way now." Jessica stood next to her. "You can roll, but this time we write the scenes." Kendra stepped in. "Or we walk." The executive producer hesitated. Then, slowly, she gave a nod. The cameras kept rolling, but now with a different energy. Something real, something raw. The sisters took center stage and began a scene, not one written on paper, but from the heart. Yandy began. "I thought walking away was the only way to protect myself." Jessica added. "I thought hurting you first would stop me from being hurt." The dialogue was raw, trembling. Each sentence cut deeper than the last, but somehow stitched together a stronger truth. This wasn't a show anymore. It was an unraveling and a rebirth all at once. The cast gathered behind them. Money, cease, even Kendra. A circle of broken relationships trying to heal in front of millions. No lights, no glamour, just grit. Yandy turned to the camera, her voice steady. "To everyone watching, I walked away. Before because I felt alone. But I'm not alone." Jessica followed up. "We let the game turn us into enemies. But we're sisters first." The final scene wasn't dramatic. It wasn't violent. It was quiet, heavy, and honest. And that's what made it electric. A room full of cast and crew, once divided, now standing together. Cameras lowered. Microphones clicked off. The red on-air sign dimmed. And just like that, the season's last scene wasn't a cliffhanger. It was a reckoning. In the aftermath, the internet did what it always does. It spun the moment into 1,000 memes, theories, and think pieces. Some said the whole thing was still fake. Some swore this was the most honest moment the show had ever delivered. But one thing was clear, Yandy and Jessica had changed the rules. The next day, a new teaser dropped, but not from the network. It was a handheld video shot by Yandy herself. No filter, no editing. Just her, speaking straight to camera. From her living room, "I know a lot of you saw the chaos," she said, eyes puffy from crying. And yes, it was real. All of it. But what you didn't see were the conversations after the cameras stopped. The apologies, the pain, the truth. The clip went viral within minutes. Jessica posted one too. Her caption, "Unfinished business." And maybe that was the perfect way to leave it. Not wrapped in a bow. Not tied up in perfect sound bites. Just raw, messy, and real. A storm that passed, but left everything changed in its wake. The network scrambled to recut the entire season around this fallout. Marketing teams rebranded the season's slogan overnight, "The realest season yet." Crew members spoke out anonymously, confirming everything. Setups, scripts, staged tears. And now, the refusal to keep playing the game. Viewers were stunned, hooked, obsessed, and somewhere, in a quiet kitchen with her phone turned upside down, Yandy stirred her tea and breathed, not because it was over, but because it had finally begun on her terms. Jessica, on the other hand, paced outside her condo, fielding calls from agents and crisis managers, but for once, she didn't care about the optics. She just wanted to call her sister and ask, "What do we do next?" Because for the first time, in a long time, they weren't cast members. They were survivors of a war they never volunteered for, and the world, still watching, still guessing, still waiting for the next leak. But whatever happens next, one thing's for sure. This isn't just another season of love and hip-hop. This is the revolution of it. And just like that, we've gone from glammed-up confessionals to explosive breakdowns, exposed scripts, and a sisterhood shaken to its core. But the real question is, do you believe what you just saw? Was this the rawest reality TV moment in history? Or just another masterclass in manipulation dressed up as redemption? Is Yandy really done for good this time? Or is she gearing up for the most powerful comeback love and hip-hop has ever seen? And Jessica victim, villain, or just another queen caught in the network's dirty web? We've seen the tears, the walkouts, the viral clips, and the shady DMIs, but one thing's certain, the real story is never what airs, it's what leaks. And baby, this leak changed everything. So before the next teaser drops, or the next voicemail mysteriously surfaces, you better be locked in. Now we need to hear from you. Are you Team Yandy or Team Jessica? Did the network cross a line? Or were the sisters in on it all along? Drop your theories, your hot takes, your behind-the-scenes guesses. We're reading every single one. If you live for leaked footage, real-time meltdowns, and the kind of truth that makes execs sweat, then smash that like button, hit subscribe, and ring that bell like it owes you money. Because we've got more chaos, more clapbacks, and more scandal brewing, and trust us, you don't want to miss what's coming next. This ain't just love and hip-hop anymore. This is war. And the next shot could drop any second. Stay messy, stay watching, and remember, the fakest thing on TV might just be the truth.